This is the CIMSS website, and what I want to show you is a few days before a solar flare. Now, we always know, if you see the other videos, use of NEXRADs, wind profilers, harp stations, etc., which are known to affect the weather and manipulation of the climate. Now, you can see activity here in the center of the screen. You see those, what I call them, parachutes. These are inverted ones, but they are the microwave flares from certain pieces of equipment, which I've explained in other videos. Now, when a solar flare happens, I've noticed that major activity starts to occur from these equipment, and you can see in the next section when the ionization of the atmosphere from these solar flares, which take about 2 days to reach the Earth, and it's most unusual how the excess energy, or this available energy in the atmosphere, is then utilized for whatever agendas they want to increase their control and manipulation of the weather. Now, I'm going to use an example of one of these flares from BP Earthwatch. I'm sure you won't mind. Some useful information on this site worth taking note of. Now, a solar flare happened. It wasn't directly Earth facing, it was a glance, but it still projected a tremendous amount of energy in the Earth's upper atmosphere. And as you'll see here, the date was the 21st of February this year, just 7 days ago.
There's 3 pulses involved, and they're moving very fast. You can tell, especially on the coronal mass ejection in the bottom right quadrant. I'll slow this down and we'll look at it a little closer. Now, the reason I'm doing the video is look at that coronal mass ejection. A large amount of the solar surface was thrown out into the solar atmosphere. That is so much energy, guys, compared to the magnetic field of the Earth, anything really known to man. But in just that outer section there, you could put 10 Earths. Now,
okay, so fairly considerable. There has been much larger ones than that as well. However, let's go back to these electromagnetic wavelengths which are picked up from a satellite which is 35,000 kilometers above the Earth's equator, and we'll show you what the reaction is from these monitors, how they use the energy microwaves even to accelerate whatever plans that they've got in manipulating the weather. Now look closely across. You've got the Atlantic here, Argentina on the right here, and to the base of Argentina, just on the right by the tail, you've got the Falkland Isles, which has recently had some transmitter equipment there. I've done a video on that. I'll show you that in a second. It's a wind profiler along with other purposes of that serves, and we've got near the Arctic, the South Pole, we've got another island to the right there. I can't remember what that is, but I'll show you some pictures of there. You can see flashes starting over there, and then an enormous stretch of microwave energy goes across Argentina, right up to the United Kingdom, and across Africa. Because of the available energy in the atmosphere, these clever blighters are picking all this energy up and manipulating it and control it. It's amazing. You don't actually need to transmit masses of energy to control the energy in the atmosphere. That's a fact. You've got to have the right frequencies working together to do that. But look how many thousands of miles that covers. And you've also got across the Indian Ocean, past Australia, South Pacific, Pacific Ocean, right over on the left hand side. There's 2 unusual beams on the left hand side you'll see heading from north to south, possibly the frequencies of lasers where they control the direction of the weather fronts. But unusually, if you look on the far left hand side, watch the clockwise rotation when those beams hit it, due to the available energy in the atmosphere. There, it kicks it twice and then it starts to rotate clockwise. We won't dwell on this, but this is just an example of the sun's energy and the effect it has on the atmosphere and the energy within the upper atmosphere of the Earth that I believe is being manipulated for alternative purposes. But when you see a solar flare hitting the Earth, it affects the Earth's magnetic field. It can even cause earthquakes. But when you can use the ionized energy in the atmosphere and manipulate it with wavelengths, then that's what we've just witnessed. And of course, there's a more detailed explanation. You've got your solar flares, you've got your magnetic fields. These then come directly to the sun, and you've got your energy fields which then are affected, which protrudes to the Earth, and this energy is then, or some of the energy is collected in the atmosphere of the Earth. Fortunately, the magnetic field deflects most of this energy, which is harmful to us, but some of it positively charges the atmosphere, which can be used for the equipment that we're about to see. This is King Edward Point near the South Pole. If you look across here, you've got smaller transmitters there. No doubt these are used for communications, but there is other equipment which can be used for a host of other reasons. You can see transmitter receiver equipment there, known as what we call NEXRADs. That's if it's a dual NEXRAD. There's also other equipment here, which is here. That is what I would call quite large. That's a Doppler radar NEXRAD transmitter receiver, along with another piece of equipment there, which I've got a closer information on and a picture of it, which I'll show you here. This is a 10-meter parabolic dish. The guys that built this in 2011-2012 are standing there. These are the engineers that assembled it. Interestingly, it's called an SPT is for examining cosmic microwave background and dark matter. But as you know, a parabolic dish is not only capable of receiving information and wavelengths, it's also capable of transmitting. Some of the equipment that's been used for transmitting, one of them they had a problem with, which it caught fire, which is this one here. This is the energy generator section. You can see a dish in the background where a fire broke out. We can't surmise what the reason was, but you can see this is Brazil's base station. Some of these stations will show you in a moment. They have spent hundreds of millions of pounds on research. As they say, research. We know some of them are very, very well established plans with skills that they've developed in the use of transmission of particular frequencies. This unusual piece of equipment, this is where they map. So this is the opposite. This is sending a magnetic field down into the Earth through the ice for mapping, but it's called a transient electromagnetic method. So they are mapping the ground beneath and the areas of the rock formations and landmass, but it's unusual. There's tremendous amount of investment going on here, and this is as we've seen before, 6-sided hexagon, of which we've seen dozens and dozens of them on Guam, many other islands, which are used for transmission of electromagnetic wavelengths both into the Earth and up into the atmosphere. So these are considerable investments by the bodies. It mentions the number of countries which have all invested, and when you think of the Hadron Collider, the billions of pounds that they've spent in the name of research, for which they never give us full details of. They move forward, which substantially is our money, for them to do experiments for which they keep us in the dark about. But here's one of them. This is only partly related, so I'll be quick on this. This is 1 cubic kilometre in size, and it's below the ice of Antarctica. So they're looking at the particles which have very little energy, which penetrate through the ice and are actually picked up by this piece of equipment. But there's large buildings above this. That's just explaining how they're looking for these particles, which obviously come from sections of outer space. But I'm just showing the type of money that they're spending on equipment out there in the South Pole, just to show some of the experiments they never let on what's really going on, like the Hadron Collider. It's just explaining how, to some degree, how this works as a piece of equipment, but it's extremely large, the equipment is that they have. If you look at this one here, I think it's the one where it actually shows the building above, which must have cost millions and millions of pounds. I think it's this one. But I'm going to show you the next rad, which is off Brazil, which actually started some of the beams of that massive microwave section that then went across Africa, Europe, and to right up to the United Kingdom. Just before we go to that section in Brazil, there's South Georgia Sandwich Islands. That's where one of the beams came from, and this is the Falkland Isles, where we know the UK had a war with Argentina. But when you look, that's where one of the beams came from that went up like a square section up in the atmosphere. Just below Darwin, we've got the transmitter equipment there, and we've got one of the Superdawn run by the UK transmitters. What that does in the upper atmosphere sometimes can be anybody's guess, but we can see the results of it. So we just go across to that one in Argentina, which is up here, and these are where the first beams started from. Worth knowing where these are, because when you see the beams coming out at a later date, you can obviously track where they're coming from. This one is up on a tower, just to show it in perspective. There's your baby. So the point of this video is, be aware, learn of what's being done to us and this planet. You can see bad intentions, evil intentions, where they want full control of everything, every facet of our life. You you'll see the next video that I'll be uploading, which is some amazing facts on vaccines, which every family that walks on the face of this earth should know about. So thanks for watching. Be safe.